Hello and welcome to Dish Shelved with Adam White. This week and next week I'm going to talk about books that CriminOlly made me read. I've been watching his channel recently and trying to catch up on his videos, and I've seen some books that he talks about that seem to be of interest to me. Some of his tastes seem to coincide with mine. Uh, I don't know if I can read romance novels, though. I'm just really not into that. So uh, he seems to be able to tolerate those, but he likes trashy novels, and I'm not probably as big on them, although there's probably some that I've read that could be considered trash. Uh, anyway, the first book that I read that he suggested was The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker. Let me tell you what it says about it. Frank Cotton's insatiable appetite for the dark pleasures of pain led him to the puzzle of Lamarchand's box, and from there to a death only a sick-minded soul could invent. But his brother's love-crazed wife, Julia, has discovered a way to bring Frank back, though the price will be bloody and terrible, and there will certainly be hell to pay. Now, that's a pretty good description of the book. I had always heard Clive Barker's books were really strange and uh, kind of depraved in a good way. Uh, and I had never read any Clive Barker, though. And I read them both on Kindle that I'm going to talk about today, so I don't have pictures to show you. My uh, technology budget was shot for the week. Uh, I but anyway, I read it. I really didn't know what to expect when I went into it. And it was a story about a guy that finds this thing called Lamarchand's box that's supposed to bring you pleasures, and the guy has become kind of a nihilist and doesn't think there's anything left on earth for him to uh, that would bring him pleasure anymore. So he wants something unearthly, and he finally figures out how to open up this box. This happens at the beginning, so I'm not giving anything away. And these things called the Cenobites come to him and say, what is it that you're wanting, and are you prepared for it if you ask for it? And of course, Frank is like, yeah, I definitely want pleasure. And he had all sorts of things in mind about endless pleasuring. And let's just say he didn't get exactly what he thought he was going to get, which probably is a good indication when you're dealing with demons uh, that you're probably going to get screwed on that uh, end of things. Uh, then he has a short tryst with his brother's wife. I'm not sure if it was before or after they got married. That was the one confusing thing about the book, was he talked about them not being married like they were going to get married, and then he talked about them being married as if they'd been married for years. So I was a little confused on that uh, throughout the book. It wasn't. It was more towards the beginning that happened. But uh, anyway, she has to do some unspeakable things trying to bring Frank back from this. I don't know if it's hell or where, but uh, he wants to come back to the real world, and she does what she can to help him because she's infatuated with him and has turned against the brother that's her husband. And it all just goes way downhill from there. Things do not happen. It is not pleasant. The things that happen to everybody. Um, and it just really kind of devolves into something very terrible for everyone involved. Uh, However, again, I've always thought Clive Barker was supposed to be a little bit on the deprived side when it came to his books. But when I read this, I was just kind of like, okay. And I don't know if that says more about me or if it says more about the book. I guess things just aren't as shocking as they were maybe when they first came out. But I mean, it was definitely, I was affected by it, but I just really read through and was like, well, okay, yeah, these people are going to get what they deserve. And when you play with forces you don't understand, that's what you're going to get. So, anyway, I liked it. I may read some more Clive Barker. I'm not sure what next, but I've got a whole long list of things I need to read first. So anyway, that's my thoughts on Hellbound Heart. I liked it, so I'm glad CriminOlly referenced it in his several of his videos. Uh, the next book that I read that CriminOlly suggested was The Tarnsman of Gore by John Norman. It's part of a pulpy kind of series. Let me read you what it says. Tarl Cabot has always believed himself to be a citizen of Earth. He has no inkling that his destiny is far greater than the small planet he has inhabited for the first 20-odd years of his life. One frosty winter night in the New England woods, he finds himself transported to the planet of Gore, also known as Counter Earth, where everything is dramatically different from anything he has ever experienced. It emerges that Tarl is to be trained as a Tarnsman, one of the honored positions in the rigid caste-bound Gorean society. He is disciplined by the best teachers and warriors that Gore has to offer, but to what end? That pretty well sums it up. Uh, it's about this college professor who that's all he's ever done. He's done a little bit of fencing, but I mean, he's no master at it by any means, but he's a college professor and he ends up getting whisked away one night out of nowhere to another planet. Uh, I will say that this is just pretty much taken directly from A Princess of Mars, uh, where he's just unexplainably taken to another planet and becomes a great warrior there. And then at the end is, I don't think it'll ruin it, but in the end, he's mysteriously transported back, just like John Carter of Mars was. And so the whole thing plays out as just kind of a complete takeoff of A Princess of Mars, which I really enjoyed. A Princess of Mars. I did kind of enjoy this book. He first learns to sword fight, which he becomes a master at. He's taught by another character named Tarl. Why, I don't know. They named that character Tarl too. They call him Older Tarl. I don't know why they did that. That doesn't make any sense. They could have just given him a different name, but it just kind of serves to be a little confusing sometimes. But anyway, he learns to use a spear and a shield, and he learns to ride these giant birds called tarns. And he's a natural at that too. Now, let me say this on him. This guy is a college professor transported to another world, and he becomes immediately like their most sensational warrior. I taught college English for 15 years, and if I had been whisked to a different world in another on another planet and had been expected to learn how to fight, I would have been completely inept at it. And the first situation I got into where there was a battle, I would have been killed. And that's pretty much the bottom line. So it was really hard for me to believe that a professor from college could become the greatest warrior on another planet in a matter of, it seemed like, days. Although I'm sure it was probably a little bit more than that, but they never specified how long it was. I would have been dead, straight up. So I don't know. I don't know how believable that was, just because the guy had had a little bit of fencing for fun in the background, that he all of a sudden was this absolutely fantastic warrior that was better than all the warriors of the planet who've been doing it their whole lives. So he, of course, ends up going after a woman that he's supposed to kill and sacrifice another, but he leaves off the one that he is supposed to sacrifice, and then he doesn't kill the one he's supposed to kill, and he ends up with her, and of course they fall in love after a kind of a tumultuous relationship of back and forth between them, being not friends and then immediate and then eventually falling for each other. But uh, it just plays out pretty much like you'd expect it would. And like I said, it was a real, just a takeoff of A Princess of Mars. So I don't know if I'll read any more of these. The world was kind of interesting. I just, like I said, found it hard to believe that this guy went from being a college professor to, Super Conan the Barbarian. That just didn't really ring true for me. Uh, at least John Carter was a warrior and a Civil War veteran. So, I mean, he had fought and he knew how to fight and use a sword and use a gun. And so, I mean, that was believable. The way he got transported, maybe not so much, but uh, it was just almost exactly the same in this Tarnsman of Gore. So, I know CriminOlly likes this series and is, I guess, rereading it. Uh, I liked it well enough. I don't know if I'll be reading any more of them, but I definitely am glad that I gave it a shot. And thanks to CriminOlly for these two recommendations. Next week, I'll be talking about two more recommendations he made, and we'll see what I think of those. But of both of these, The Hellbound Heart was the better of the two books. Neither one of them were very long books, so that was nice. I've kind of gotten into reading a little bit shorter books because I spent so much time on gigantic fantasy novels, several of which I still have yet to get to, so you'll probably be hearing about those in the future too. But I like the Hellbound Heart more than the Tarnsman of Gore. And like I said, I don't know if I'll be reading any more Gore books, but it was 2 afternoons of an interesting read. Uh, and I hope that this brings you some knowledge of some books. I just wanted to cover them because CriminOlly suggested them and I thought they sounded interesting. So hopefully you found this video interesting too. Again, thanks to CriminOlly, and I will see you guys next week.